Well, they don't tell us exactly, how long was it from when police arrived to when he was actually pronounced dead? They just say later that afternoon. Sounds like it might have been hours later. At the very least, it was more than 45 minutes. We know that. And he was obviously already on drugs.
Hello, folks, and how are you today? We have some information on the Daniel Penny case. Matt is going to go over this, so why don't we just have a listen?
The Daniel Penny case in New York City. We've been following the case closely on this show, and now that it's gone to trial, some new details, new to us, but not new to the prosecutors who brought this case, are coming to light. So here's the Daily Mail on Friday. This is the report. Police detected a pulse on homeless man Jordan Neely after he was put in a chokehold by Marine veteran Daniel Penny. Bombshell new body cam footage reveals. The video became public today as Penny's manslaughter trial began in Manhattan. Penny, then 24, is accused of killing Neely by putting him in what prosecutors say was a fatal chokehold. During opening statements today, body cam footage of the moment cops found Neely was shown. NYPD officers arrived on the train at Fulton Station at 2:33 p.m. Two police officers confirmed that Neely still had a pulse when they arrived. I got a pulse, one said. A second police officer confirmed that he too felt a pulse. Neely was unconscious, lying on the subway car floor. When asked how Neely ended up there, Penny replied, "I put him out." Despite initially detecting a pulse, they issued Narcan, the drug used to reverse opioid overdoses, to Neely and started CPR at 2:38. At 3:13, almost 45 minutes after police first arrived, Neely was still on the train. He was not pronounced dead until he arrived at Lenox Health Hospital in Greenwich Village later that afternoon. Among witnesses on the first day of evidence was an NYPD sergeant who testified that none of his team performed mouth-to-mouth on Neely because he was a drug user, quote unquote. Quote, he seemed to be a drug user. He was an apparent drug user. He was very dirty. I didn't want them to get hepatitis. If he did wake up, he would have been vomiting. I didn't want my officers to do that. He was filthy. You look like a homeless individual. You have to protect your officers. I wouldn't want my officer to get sick if the person throws up.
Folks, if you do like this content and any of my other content, please do hit that subscribe button. It does help me with the algorithm, and it will help me get the word out. Thank you all very much.
Okay. So Neely had a pulse when officers arrived. They refused to perform mouth-to-mouth because he was filthy and they didn't want to get sick. And then he was pronounced dead later in the afternoon. So what are we doing here exactly? What is this case? Penny did not kill Neely. He was still alive. He was still alive. Okay. The officers did not perform mouth-to-mouth. And now Penny is on trial. It seems so that New York City can basically cover its own ass. And look, I'll say, I don't blame the officers for not performing mouth-to-mouth on Jordan Neely. Getting hepatitis or some other disgusting disease is a very real concern when you're putting your mouth on some tweaked-out druggie, and he throws up, and then throws up into your mouth. I mean, that's. I don't think we should require police officers to contract diseases from homeless drug addicts as part of their job. Like, that shouldn't be part of the job that you just say, well, you're just going to get a disease now. That's not a job requirement. And I wouldn't, I wouldn't do it. I'm not going to get infected by a drugged out vagrant. I'm just not. So I get that. I do. I don't blame them. But Daniel Penny did not kill Jordan Neely. He was alive. It sounds like it was, well, they don't tell us exactly, how long was it from when police arrived to when he was actually pronounced dead? They just say later that afternoon. Sounds like it might have been hours later. At the very least, it was more than 45 minutes. We know that. And he was obviously already on drugs. Did the headlock even kill Neely? It doesn't sound like that's the case. Is this yet another case where someone has an overdose and then we end up sending someone else to prison because that person happened to be making physical contact with the guy who was overdosing?
It's also nice to show that Daniel Penny was not the only person that was in contact with Neely at the time. There was another individual, a black man, that also helped hold Neely down, or helped Daniel Penny hold Neely down. However, no charges, were filed against that individual. And this being New York and the type of politics that they practice up there, you can make your own assumptions at that one.
Is that what it is now in America? Like, if you're in the vicinity of someone who overdoses, now you go to jail for killing them? because they chose to take a lethal dose of drugs. I mean, we don't know if that's what happened here. We don't know. I mean, the facts are still coming out, but it sounds very, very likely, very plausible. And listen, if you have an overdose, that's on you. Nobody should go into prison for that, whether you're George Floyd or Jordan Neely or anybody else. Your overdose is your own fault, nobody else's. The idea that anybody else should go to prison for that, I mean, unless you want to arrest the drug dealer who gave you the drugs, then I'm all on board with that. But somebody who was not involved in the drug transaction being arrested for it, that's crazy. Someone, in fact, who was protecting the community from you because you were cracked out of your skull and acting in a threatening way. That's even crazier. And again, we don't know if Neely actually died of a drug overdose, but there is precedent, for this kind of thing. We know that. And what makes this so outrageous is that even if Neely actually was killed by Daniel Penny, incidentally, even if Penny, while restraining Neely, accidentally caused him to lose his life, it would still be an absolutely ridiculous, insane, outrageous miscarriage of justice to put Penny on trial for that. Neely was threatening people on the train.
Again, yes, he was threatening people on the train. This is a big self-defense argument. And the main question is, did Daniel Penny use too much force in taking down Neely? Because he has been charged with manslaughter and not murder. So there's little itty-bitty differences between murder 1, 2, 3, and I think then manslaughter is after that. But throw me up in the comments, everybody, if anybody knows how murder charges go in New York. Let me know over there in the comments. Thank you.
That's a fact. Like, nobody disputes that. He had to be restrained. If you're acting in an explicitly threatening way and somebody has to restrain you because of how you're acting and you die as a result, that's your fault. That's on you. And if even if they use a little bit more force than they needed to, the onus, when you are the one who is a threat to the people around you, the onus is not on everybody else to make sure that they restrain you in exactly the correct way so that it doesn't harm you. The whole thing now is your fault. Whatever happens next is your fault. That's on you. Don't want to get choked out on the subway? Don't go around threatening to kill people. Pretty simple. It's like not a high bar to clear here. So even if the prosecution's theory of the case is true, this would still be a monumental injustice, but it sounds like their theory isn't even true. And so that just makes it, that just means that really everybody involved in bringing this case, everybody involved in the prosecution should be in jail. Like you should go to jail for this kind of thing. That's what should happen. The prosecutors in this case are a much greater threat to the public than Daniel Penny is. Daniel Penny is actually protecting the public. Right? Like, I don't care where you pretend to stand on the Jordan Neely. Would you feel unsafe having Daniel Penny in your neighborhood, on the train with you, sitting next to you somewhere? Would you feel unsafe? No. If anything, you'd feel safer. You're not going to feel unsafe unless you're planning on getting up and threatening to kill people. Well, then, maybe you would feel less safe. But you should feel less safe in that case. So Daniel Penny's not making the community less safe. These prosecutors are, on the other hand. By prosecuting law-abiding people who are protecting the community, they are actively making the community less safe.
So there it is, everybody. What do you think about the prosecution of Daniel Penny? Do you think this is political? Do you think there's a lot more behind this than just going after somebody who inadvertently killed someone while he was basically defending a train carload full of people from somebody who was obviously on drugs and, by all accounts, was threatening individuals other than himself? So, like I said, tell me what you think, guys. Throw me up there in the comments. Give me that like, and absolutely, please do subscribe. Thank you all very much. Later.